My name is Jason Woods, and I'm a professional adaptive motocross rider. Adaptive. What's adaptive? Modifying according to changing circumstances. I guess you could say I've adapted to my circumstances. In high school, middle school, I grew up without a father. Got into some drugs and some alcohol and fast cars, and got to hanging out with the wrong crowd, and took some bad turns in my life. Had a high school pregnancy, which now I have two beautiful boys that I love dearly. Just got involved with the wrong crowd. I got saved whenever I was young, and I always knew what I was doing was wrong. All the drugs and the alcohol and stuff like that, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't start really living for the Lord until I was around 28 years of age. And He has really blessed me with a beautiful wife and three wonderful, wonderful children. I was actually leaving for a what they call a Loretta Lynn qualifier. I had all my stuff packed up and ready to go that morning, and I woke up, had a slight cold, and I thought, oh gosh, all this training and everything that I've done to get to this point, I'm going to go to the doctor right now so I can get this sickness knocked out of me and go on to the race. About 20 minutes later, I was at the doctor's office, and he looked at me kind of funny, and he said, I think we ought to do some blood work for you. And I was like, well, okay. And I thought that was kind of weird, but I could see it in his eyes that something wasn't right. It was about a 10-minute walk from his office building to the hospital. And in that 10 minutes, whenever I reached the hospital, I could no longer walk. They had to put me in a wheelchair. About 10 minutes later, I couldn't even sit up in a wheelchair. I actually had to lay down in the carpet. And they ended up putting me in the emergency room. And at that point, I don't remember anything for 2 weeks.
For the years before we got married, about 4 years before we got married, we would be in the hospital every other weekend because he would wreck on his dirt bikes. So I just kind of got immune to being in the hospitals. I didn't have a lot of fear a lot of times in that area. It was just kind of weird because I just knew the doctors would fix him up and we would go back on the dirt bike track. It's just something we did every weekend. But then that day was just, it was a little different because I could see where Jason had no energy. He was just getting real lethargic. They did ask us to spend the night, to stay over. It was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were telling me that he was not getting any better, and they were gonna have to airlift us to Asheville.
Whenever I woke up, my wife was standing in front of me, and she actually had a belly on her, and I didn't realize that I'd been out for that long. In a 2 weeks period, a girl that's pregnant, I guess they can, their belly can get quite large in 2 weeks. So that was the first surreal moment I had. Like, oh my gosh, something's bad has happened. And as I looked down at my body, I could see all the tubes and the wires connected to me, and my hands were kind of wrapped up, and I just didn't know really what was going on at that moment in time.
They kind of told us it wasn't that bad, but when we got to the hospital, the chaplain met us as soon as we walked in, and he said, it's not looking good. They've brought Jason in, they're trying to stabilize him. And it did hit me then, but the first thing I knew to do, Janice and I, which is his mom, went straight to a little room and just got on our knees and started praying. I mean, that's the only security I had, was to go and just say, Lord, all of this is in your hands. And at the moment in time, I was 4 months pregnant with our first child, and all these emotions could come in my head, but I just didn't think of anything at the time. As we were there in that little room praying, we actually saw people run into the ICU, and code blue was going off in the hallways, and it was for Jason. He had flatlined, had a heart attack, and that's when the sepsis, the blood poisoning, just had gotten all through his body.
I had what they called sepsis and DIC. It's a very rare blood disorder. There's very few people in the U.S. that actually has survived this. They lose legs, arms, limbs of whatever. Whenever I was told that they were going to have to amputate my fingers and my toes, At that point, I really didn't care because I knew I was in the Lord's hands and He had a greater plan for me. While I was in the hospital, I actually learned that I'd flatlined once for 20 seconds and I'd had 2 heart attacks. And they say anything over 10 seconds, you will have some sort of brain damage of some kind. And my short-term memory went. I couldn't remember hardly anything. And I learned also that I had lost some limbs. And actually they said that I was going to lose my leg and both my arms from the elbows down, and both of my ears and my nose. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to look horrendous without those limbs. And it actually happened that they only had to amputate my toes, all of my toes, and it looks actually like you took an axe and just chopped them right off is what it looks like. And it drew my hands up into a fist, and they had to amputate a lot of my fingers. Some of them almost are fully amputated, the others are half. The fears I had in my life now that this sickness had taken my toes and my fingers was that I couldn't play with my daughter the way I'd like to. Riding a motorcycle, yes, I was really down and out about that too, but not as much, because there again, I knew that the Lord was in control, and if He didn't want me ever riding again, I was actually fine with that. And I remember the first time that I was able to get down the stairs myself, which took probably 45 minutes for me to do. We have a set of stairs in our home that goes into a lower level where I keep my bike and all my gear and tools. I actually just kind of kneeled down on the bike and I said, you know, Lord, I'll sell everything and I'll be fine with it. And I actually did. I sold everything I had twice, and every time, for whatever reason, the deal fell through and I ended up keeping it. And I was like, Lord, why can't I sell this stuff? We need the money right now. We have medical bills that's unbelievable. I just want to sell it. But He had a bigger purpose for me and a plan. I actually remember the first time that I was able to get up on the bike, which took some effort. I actually had to have somebody lift me up on it because of all the surgeries I had in this area here. I've got scars all over the place. I was so sore that I couldn't bend over and I really couldn't do much of anything. And one of my friends kind of picked me up real gently like and set me on it. And I was like, you know what, I wonder if I can ride again. So I got on the phone and got in contact with a company called Revlock out of Denver, Colorado, that they have automatic clutches. And I'll never forget the first day that we had the bike put together and cranked up and ready to go. There was probably 6, 7 people there and watching me. And I actually rode around my yard a couple of times and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I can do this. I started going to the track, so I started out in the parking areas. I was at a track and there was probably 30 people there. And that was the first time that I'd got out onto the track and rode. And at that point in time, everyone was out there riding. And I got out on the track, and in a matter of 2 minutes, everybody was off the track. And I thought, oh my gosh, do I really look like I'm going to crash that bad? And I got to looking around for everybody, and they were all standing in a line watching me, and I was just like, my heart just melted, and you could just see the tears rolling up in people's eyes, and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. The X Games, it was actually an X Games qualifier at this event, and I thought, well, X Games, that's really cool, and so I wanted to go up there and participate in it. I did. I ended up qualifying for the X Games and went on to California and winning the bronze medal in the X Games. And I just could not believe that. It was unreal, and just how the Lord just really blessed me through this sickness and all the pain that I've been through with the skin grafts, and the burns on my arms due to the blood poisoning that was in my system. It was really, really neat. And I just thank the Lord for blessing me and for saving me.
I don't know what you're going through, but it could be divorce, or your parents are just not getting along, or anything, any struggle you're going through. I had such an overwhelming peace when they came to me about all those tragic things that could happen, from losing all his limbs to decisions I would have to make, but I couldn't rely on myself at all. I had to just go to the Lord and say, Lord, please just help me make the right decisions and just give me a peace about what I'm about to make decisions. And the same in your situation. Just get on your knees and say, Lord, I don't know, what to do or what my situation, why I'm going through it, but just say, Lord, help me right now, and just be with me and help me to make the right decisions, because we are going to go through trials in this life. We will not see glory until we get to heaven. And so just, give God the glory and honor, and just thank Him for your friends and family, and just say, Lord, help me through this hard time in this situation.
Relying on your own strength through these circumstances, I couldn't imagine for somebody to be in my situation and not know the Lord. I honestly don't know how they would have any peace or any joy whatsoever. And honestly, I don't know why I had such a peace. I knew the Lord, I knew He loved me, I knew He had a plan for me, and I knew if I died right then, where I was going. I guess that's the peace that I had, and because there's a Bible verse that says, the peace with Him surpasses all understanding. And it is hard to understand that peace. Without the Lord, there is no peace, and the world's not going to be able to fulfill that void that's in your heart. I just urge you to just ask Jesus to help you in that area. And just what an awesome peace it is. My name is Jason Woods, and my roots run deep.